the home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Woo! Finally got moved in here to my new abode. That's why I've been a little absent here lately. It's been about 3 or 4 days since I've done a podcast. Had gotten back into the swing of things, since I was sick a few weeks back, but then I had to move. So now we got our stuff about set up. Throw my banner up on the wall. Decided I'd just jump in here real quick while I got a few moments to holler at my common Joes and Sal's in the know. And today I was looking at something on the internet and I saw where the Pac-12 is continuing to act like the Big 12 is Bush League, or like they can snub their noses at anybody right now. Let's talk about it. Well, here we are again. Another episode of the OCF. That's me, JPC. That stands for the Outlaw of College Football. That's right. In today's class, I just want to jump in here real quick to talk about that topic that I just told you about in the lead up. That is, the Pac-12 continues to snub their noses up at you, Big 12. And to me right now, this would be the best thing for these two conferences if they were to merge. Or at least if the Big 12 come in and took about the top 4 to 6 teams that's left. Now, I can understand that there's some nostalgia there in Oregon and Washington. Don't want to leave Oregon State and Washington State behind. But that times for nostalgia are over. This direction of college football is moving into the direction of it's going to be what's the old catchphrase? What's the old adage? The strong survive. And if Oregon State and Washington State have been playing up to their capabilities and their programs have been performing like all these other programs, they would not be in this position. Hell, I can't even talk today. But what I don't understand about the Pac-12 is, have they not learned anything? I mean, they already made a deal with probably the worst commissioner in sports to me. I know he went out and got USC and UCLA, but Kevin Warren, to me, is probably the shadiest and the biggest liar of all commissioners. And basically, Kevin Warren had told the ACC and Pac-12, hey, let's do an alliance. Let's have an alliance. And we won't, that way nobody will take each other's teams. What he meant to say was, we need someone to back us up just for about a year or two till we get our shit together, because the SEC just punked us out by taking Texas and Oklahoma. So we need to get our shit together and figure things out. And once they done that little loosely knit alliance, and I always wondered why they called it that, but now I know why. They were actually telling the truth about that. The first chance he gets, Kevin Warren goes out and takes the two best, not the two best teams, but the two best markets probably in the Pac-12, that being USC and UCLA. Now, some may debate that. Seattle's a pretty big market. The state of Oregon is a pretty big market with Nike and Phil Knight and whatnot. But that's neither here nor there. He went out there and took their teams. All these years, the Pac-12 has followed the Big Ten and whatever they've done. They've always adhered to that silly-ass Rose Bowl tie-in they had a long time ago. People say, well, y'all had tie-ins too. Yeah, because we were forced to do that because of what the Rose Bowl did. I think it was around the late 40s or early 50s that the Rose Bowl tied up the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. And the only reason the Big Ten done that is the same reason they done what they done this past year, is that they're intimidated, to me, by the SEC. So the Big Ten and the Pac-12 tied up the Rose Bowl for 50-something years. and then everybody else had to start doing conference tie-ins. If not, they would have been left behind on the bowl deals and whatnot. But now that has went by the wayside, and the Rose Bowl people are probably pretty pissed off right now, because now that the Big Ten sees that the Rose Bowl is not the granddaddy of them all anymore, they've left them high and dry. And the Rose Bowl, their roots are in the Pac-12. So the little Rose Bowl tie-in and them saving the Rose Bowl, those days are about to come to an end. The Rose Bowl is just going to have to figure something out. To me, I figure what's going to happen is we're going to have these playoff sites at these bowl games. And they're going to be really bowl games anymore. They're going to be playoff games. And all the other bowls eventually, in my opinion, will probably disappear. If they don't, they'll be considered what in college basketball is called the NIT. That's what they'll be considered. But back to the topic at hand. But the Pac-12 got left at the altar by the Big Ten once again. And that's what y'all get for trying to kiss ass and pretend like, oh, we're so much more elite. We got AAU status schools, and that's why we don't want the SEC tied in with our conferences and bowl games and blah, 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 blah. Although that's went by the wayside in the last few years. But the whole Rose Bowl thing still pisses me off. That's why I just continue to talk about it. Because it was an elitist move of two conferences that are not as elite as they think they are. Just because you got some kind of academic AAU status doesn't mean that you're better than other schools at everything. Not even in academics. You might say you are, but you're not really. I mean, you can bring your players in there and pretend like they have higher grade point averages and whatnot if you want to. But in reality, if you got a 4.0 grade point average, but someone's helping you do the work, do you really have a 4-point grade point average? Because we know Notre Dame and some of the Big Ten schools and Pac-12 schools got in trouble for some tutors, basically not tutoring, but actually doing the work for players. But I don't understand where the Pac-12's thinking, man. They put their eggs all in one basket with the Big Ten, and they believed in everything the Big Ten said, and the Big Ten had just turned around and screwed them again, taking USC and UCLA, and yet they're still there, in my opinion, pining for a Big Ten invite. Oregon, Washington, Arizona State, Colorado maybe, Utah. Washington State and Oregon State, I think they're going to be left out. That's why I didn't really mention them. But those teams think, for some reason, that the Big Ten's going to change their mind and come along and invite them too. That's why I think they continue to snub their nose at the Big 12. And y'all got to cut that shit out, man. The Big Ten don't care about you. They've used you for almost 70 years now to get their way, to get to make up for their emasculation with the SEC, in my opinion. So you got to do away with that, man. You got to stop trying to act like you're elite or better than somebody, and just have the mindset that everybody has something good about them. Everybody has a good alma mater. I mean, for the most part, everybody's alma mater, they believe, has something good about them. And stop trying to look down on people, man. Y'all can't do that, man, because you're going to be left out, man. With USC and UCLA, they've seen the writing on the wall. They're like, hell, we're going to get the hell up out of here. And the Big Ten helped them do that. Now, Oregon and Washington are the two main entities left, in my opinion. If those two guys would just join the Big 12, the other schools would follow. And y'all would have the whole western side just about to yourself. Now, of course, there's a few western schools out there like the Big Ten's USC and UCLA, and the SEC having the Texas schools and Oklahoma and whatnot. But for the most part, if y'all would come together and stop sneering and looking down on people, Pac-12, then I think you would be all right. And I forgot Stanford too. Stanford, in my opinion, probably needs to be the Western version of the Ivy League. Stanford just needs to join the Ivy League, because I don't think deep down inside they don't give a crap about football and whatnot. They bring up this stuff about, oh, we got the most national championships. But, man, y'all piled up a bunch of championships in non-spectator sports, really. You know, water polo and shit like that, where you only have 20, 30 people at the event watching it or whatnot, unless you're in an Olympic event somewhere in Japan or something. But just stop looking down on the Pac-12 and looking down on other people. The Big Ten and the Pac-12, y'all's little AAU thing, y'all been unmasked. All this time, y'all have wanted to be good in football, just like the SEC, and y'all have hid behind that shit for ages. And it's time to have a coming to Jesus moment, and stop looking down on the Big 12, and y'all need to merge, because that's the only way you're going to save yourself. Yeah, Big Ten could come along and invite Oregon and Washington, but the rest of you, I don't know what you're waiting on. I heard Colorado saying the Big 12 is Bush League. Really? Colorado? What have you done? That's all I got to say about that. You guys and gals, tell me what you think about this situation. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. If you don't mind, look up underneath here. There's a heart option. It says thanks. Click on that. Throw a few dollars in the coffers. Maybe you get me off this YouTube teat a little bit. KMCA in class is now dismissed.